The crystalline spires of the Galactic Academy of Species studied pierced the violet skies of Centauri Prime, their surfaces reflecting the light of 3 setting suns. Inside Laboratory Complex Delta, young Crix adjusted their sensory appendages, trying to focus on the holographic display before them. As a third-year xenobiology student, they had studied countless species from across the galaxy, but something about this particular planet called Earth kept drawing their attention. Still obsessing over that backwater world, Crix? The melodic voice of their classmate Zen resonated through the chamber. Zen's bioluminescent patterns flickered with amusement as they glided closer on their gravity disk. "There's something fascinating about it," Crix responded, their crystalline exoskeleton shifting colors with excitement. "Look at this data set about their arachnid species. The size variations alone are extraordinary." The hologram expanded, showing thousands of different spider species in perfect detail. From the massive Goliath bird-eater to the tiny Patadigua, Earth's spiders represented an astounding diversity of evolution. But it was the smallest ones that caught Crix's attention most intensely. "Our combat instructors would laugh at these creatures," Zen commented, their patterns shifting to show mild disdain. "The warrior caste of our people would consider them beneath notice." Crix's sensory appendages twitched with irritation. "That's exactly the kind of thinking that makes us miss crucial discoveries. Size isn't everything, Zen. Look at these venom compounds." The hologram shifted again, displaying complex molecular structures that danced in the air between them. Crix manipulated the display with practiced ease, highlighting specific proteins and neurotoxins. Their excitement grew as they compared the data to their own species' biological makeup. "According to these calculations," Crix muttered, their voice taking on the harmonics of deep concentration, "even the smallest of these creatures could potentially—" They stopped, their exoskeleton flashing warning colors. The implications of what they were seeing seemed impossible, yet the numbers didn't lie. Crix ran the simulation 3 more times, each result confirming their initial discovery. "Could potentially what?" Zen asked, finally showing genuine interest. "You're displaying alarm patterns, Crix. What did you find?" Before Crix could respond, the laboratory's main doors parted with a crystalline chime. Professor YXLL entered, their ancient exoskeleton bearing the marks of countless scientific expeditions. The students immediately straightened, their postures showing appropriate respect for one of the Academy's most distinguished xenobiologists. "Professor," Crix called out, unable to contain their discovery despite protocol. "I need your verification on these findings. It's about Earth's arachnids." Professor YXLL approached with deliberate grace, their sensory appendages already extending toward the holographic display. "Earth again, young Crix? Your fascination with that planet is becoming quite notorious among the faculty." "But this is different," Crix insisted, their colors shifting rapidly with excitement. "I've been analyzing their venom compositions, specifically comparing them to our own biological vulnerabilities. The smallest species, when you consider the proportional impact." The professor's appendages moved through the data with lightning speed, their exoskeleton gradually shifting to match Crix's alarm patterns. The laboratory fell silent as other students gathered around, drawn by their teacher's unusual reaction. "This is..." Professor YXLL paused, running their own calculations. "This is unprecedented. Have you considered the implications for the warrior trials next month?" Crix's sensory clusters pulsed with affirmation. "That's exactly what caught my attention. According to these simulations, even our strongest warriors would be vulnerable to these toxins. The smallest Earth spider could theoretically kill our mightiest warrior," Professor YXLL finished, their voice resonating with a mixture of awe and concern. With a single bite, the laboratory erupted in harmonic discord as students voiced their disbelief. Their species prided itself on producing some of the most formidable warriors in the known galaxy. Their exoskeletons could withstand extreme conditions, their strength was legendary, and their combat prowess was studied throughout the civilized systems. "It's impossible," Zen declared, their patterns showing aggressive skepticism. "These calculations must be flawed. How could something so tiny pose any threat to a Centaurian warrior?" Professor YXLL's sensory appendages waved in a gesture of academic challenge. Perhaps, young Zen, this presents an opportunity for practical demonstration. The annual warrior trials are approaching, where our finest warriors demonstrate their superiority. What better time to test these findings? Crix's exoskeleton paled slightly. You mean, arrange an actual encounter? Under strictly controlled conditions, of course, the professor clarified, already beginning to document the discovery. This could revolutionize our understanding of biological warfare capabilities. More importantly, it could teach our people a valuable lesson about underestimating other species. As the professor continued organizing the potential experiment, Crix stared at the hovering image of Earth's smallest spider. They had come to the academy hoping to make discoveries that would advance their people's knowledge. Now, standing in the midst of growing excitement and controversy, they realized they might have found something that would change their entire society's worldview. The news spread through the academy like a quantum wave, reaching every department by day's end. Warriors, scientists, and politicians all had their opinions, but one thing was certain: the upcoming warrior trials would be unlike any in Centaurian history. And it all started because one curious student decided to look closer at a planet others had dismissed as insignificant. As Crix left the laboratory that evening, walking beneath the now dark spires of the academy, they couldn't help but wonder what other surprises Earth held. Perhaps their people's assumption of superiority needed more thorough examination. After all, if something so small could challenge their mightiest warriors, what other wonders might they be overlooking? The Great Hall of Warriors stood as a testament to Centaurian might, its walls embedded with crystalline memorials of past champions. Commander Thrax, the most decorated warrior of the current generation, studied his reflection in one of these crystals, his exoskeleton gleaming with the traditional pre-combat polish. The news from the academy had reached him 3 cycles ago, and he still couldn't decide whether to be amused or insulted. A spider, he rumbled, his voice carrying the harmonics of barely contained derision. They wished to pit me against an Earth spider. Behind him, Crix shifted uncomfortably, their student markings contrasting sharply with the martial surroundings. Not just any spider, Commander. Our research indicates that specific venom compounds in even the smallest specimens could theoretically pose a threat, Thrax interrupted, turning to face the student. His massive form towered over Crix, combat scars creating intricate patterns across his exoskeleton. Theory and reality often differ greatly, young one. I have faced the deadliest creatures from 1,000 worlds. Professor YXLL, standing nearby with a data crystal in their appendages, stepped forward. Which is precisely why you are the perfect candidate for this demonstration, Commander. Your experience and resilience make you the ideal subject. The chamber's atmospheric processors hummed softly as Thrax considered the proposal. Around them, younger warriors in training had paused their exercises to watch the exchange, their exoskeletons reflecting the chamber's ambient light. You understand, Thrax began, his tone carrying the weight of centuries of tradition, that to even suggest a creature so small could challenge one of our warriors is to question the very foundations of our combat philosophy. Crix's sensory appendages twitched with nervous energy. With respect, Commander, isn't challenging our assumptions exactly how we advance? Our species didn't achieve spaceflight by clinging to comfortable beliefs. A ripple of surprised harmonics went through the observing warriors. Few students dared to speak so boldly to a commander, especially in the Hall of Warriors. But instead of showing offense, Thrax's exoskeleton shifted to display patterns of intrigue. You have courage, young scientist, he acknowledged. Very well. Let us put your theory to the test. What exactly do you propose? Professor YXLL activated the data crystal, projecting a detailed hologram of the testing chamber they had designed. We've created a controlled environment that will ensure safety while allowing for accurate observation. The spider will be contained within a specific area, and you, Commander, will have full control over the level of interaction. We've also developed emergency protocols, Crix added quickly, their colors showing concern for both the warrior's safety and the success of the experiment. Advanced medical units will be standing by, though we don't anticipate any serious. Medical units? Thrax's warrior markings flashed with amusement. For a creature I could crush beneath a single appendage? Zen, who had been quietly observing from the chamber entrance, finally spoke up. Perhaps the commander would prefer a more public demonstration? During the warrior trials, perhaps? The suggestion hung in the air like a challenge. The annual warrior trials were more than just demonstrations of combat prowess. They were cultural events that drew observers from across the galaxy. To stage such an experiment there would elevate it from a simple scientific study to a matter of public record. Thrax's exoskeleton rippled with consideration. The trials begin in 3 cycles. It would certainly provide an appropriate venue. And when this tiny creature fails to overcome my defenses, it will serve as a lesson about misplaced concern. Or, Crix ventured, their academic excitement overriding their caution, it could teach our people that true strength lies in respecting all forms of life, regardless of size. The commander turned his full attention to Crix, his sensory appendages extending to their full length. You truly believe in this, don't you? It's not just academic curiosity driving your research. I believe, Crix responded carefully, that the universe has many lessons to teach us if we're willing to learn them. The humans have a saying, size isn't everything. Humans, Thrax mused, his markings showing subtle signs of curiosity. They're not much larger than we are, yet they've survived on a world filled with these venomous creatures. Perhaps that alone deserves some consideration. The professor's appendages moved rapidly, documenting the exchange. Then you agree to the demonstration? I do, Thrax declared, his voice carrying the formal tones of a warrior's oath. At the trials, before all observers, I will face this earth spider. Let the outcome be recorded for all time, whether it brings glory or humbles our pride. As the details were finalized, Crix couldn't help but feel a mixture of excitement and apprehension. They had started this chain of events with a simple research project, and now it had grown into something that could potentially change their society's fundamental beliefs about strength and power. The news spread quickly through the academy and beyond. Preparations began immediately, with teams of scientists working to create the perfect testing environment. The warrior trials, normally focused on traditional combat demonstrations, would this year feature something unprecedented: a confrontation between one of the galaxy's mightiest warriors and one of Earth's smallest defenders. As Crix left the Great Hall that day, they caught sight of their reflection in the crystalline walls. Their exoskeleton showed patterns of determination mixed with concern. They had become more than just a student now. They were about to become part of history, for better or worse. The only question remaining was, what would that history record? The Warrior Trials arena pulsed with energy as thousands of spectators filled its crystalline tiers. Representatives from dozens of galactic species had gathered to witness what many were calling the most unusual demonstration in the event's history. The usual combat trials had been completed, leaving only the final, unprecedented event. Crix stood in the preparation chamber, carefully monitoring the environmental controls around the specially designed containment unit. Inside, a tiny spider from Earth waited, unaware of its role in this historic moment. The specimen had been carefully selected and transported under strict protocols established by both Earth's scientific community and the Galactic Academy. Everything must be perfect, Professor YXLL reminded them, moving through the chamber with practiced efficiency. One mistake could invalidate the entire experiment. Zen, who had been assigned to assist with data collection, monitored the readings from their station. The warrior caste is taking bets on how quickly Commander Thrax will end this. Many believe he won't even notice the bite. They still don't understand, Crix responded, their exoskeleton showing patterns of focused concentration. This isn't about combat prowess or physical strength. It's about biochemistry and evolution. The chamber's doors parted with a crystalline chime, admitting Commander Thrax. His exoskeleton had been polished to ceremonial perfection, combat markings gleaming under the chamber's lights. Behind him, a team of medical specialists waited with emergency equipment they hoped wouldn't be necessary. Is our tiny challenger ready? Thrax asked, his voice carrying the traditional pre-combat harmonics of his caste. Crix's sensory appendages extended respectfully. Yes, Commander. We've maintained optimal conditions for both species. The containment field will ensure the spider remains within the designated area while allowing natural movement and behavior. And you're certain about the safety protocols? Professor YXLL inquired one final time. The eyes of the galaxy are upon us today. Thrax's warrior markings flashed with confidence. My concern is not for safety, Professor, but for the dignity of our combat traditions. To face such a small opponent. Size can be deceiving, Crix ventured. The smallest stars often burn the hottest. The commander's sensory appendages shifted in acknowledgement of the wisdom. Well spoken, young scientist. Let us proceed. The arena's atmospheric processors hummed as they adjusted to the perfect conditions for the demonstration. The containment unit was transported to the center of the combat zone, its transparent walls allowing perfect visibility for the observers. Specially designed recording devices would capture every detail of the encounter. Thrax took his position, his massive form dwarfing the containment unit. The spider, finally visible to the gathered crowd through magnification fields, seemed impossibly small in comparison. Gasps and harmonic expressions of disbelief rippled through the audience. Beings of the Galactic Alliance, Professor YXLL's voice resonated through the arena. You are about to witness a demonstration that may challenge our understanding of strength and vulnerability. Commander Thrax, are you prepared? I am, the warrior responded, his voice carrying to every corner of the arena. Then let us begin. The containment field's upper section dematerialized, allowing direct interaction while maintaining horizontal boundaries. Thrax moved with the practiced grace of a veteran warrior, his appendages extending toward the small creature with precise control. The spider, responding to the movement above it, did what millions of years of evolution had programmed it to do. It defended itself. The bite was so quick that many observers missed it entirely. Thrax's initial reaction was exactly what most had expected, barely a notice of the contact. His warrior markings displayed mild amusement as he withdrew his appendage. Is that all? He began to say, but the words shifted into a different harmonic as the first effects took hold. The change was subtle at first. Thrax's exoskeleton began displaying unusual color patterns, his sensory appendages twitching with unexpected signals. Then, more rapidly than anyone had anticipated, the mighty warrior's balance faltered. Fascinating, Professor YXLL murmured, their scientific detachment warring with concern as they monitored the readings. The venom's interaction with his biochemistry is exactly as predicted. The arena fell silent as Commander Thrax, veteran of 1,000 battles, champion of the warrior caste, slowly sank to his support appendages. His exoskeleton displayed patterns of confusion and disbelief. How he managed, his voice carrying harmonics of genuine wonder. Such a small. The medical team rushed forward as the warrior systems began showing signs of serious stress. The containment unit was quickly sealed and secured, its tiny occupant having demonstrated its capabilities more effectively than any academic argument could have. As the medical specialists worked to stabilize the commander's condition, Crix's sensory appendages registered the ripple of impact moving through the gathered observers. Warriors, scientists, and diplomats from across the galaxy were witnessing a fundamental truth, that nature's power observed no hierarchy of size or status. Professor YXLL moved to address the stunned audience. What you have witnessed today is not a defeat, but a discovery. A reminder that strength takes many forms, and that wisdom lies in respecting all of them. In the medical chamber, as treatments were administered and readings monitored, Commander Thrax's exoskeleton began displaying patterns of deep contemplation. The warrior who had faced the deadliest creatures in the galaxy had been humbled by one of the smallest, and in that humbling, perhaps had learned the greatest lesson of his combat career. The warrior trials would never be quite the same after that day. A new category of combat wisdom was added to the training, the understanding that true strength lies not in size or force, but in respecting and learning from all forms of life, no matter how small they might appear. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within days of the historic demonstration at the warrior trials, every major species was discussing its implications. The Galactic Academy of Species Study found itself at the center of an unprecedented surge of interest in Earth's biology. In the Academy's medical wing, Commander Thrax sat upright on a recovery platform, his exoskeleton still showing traces of the ordeal he had endured. Crix stood nearby, helping to document the warrior's recovery process. They're calling it the Thrax paradigm now, Crix informed him, monitoring the latest data streams. Your encounter has become a canonical example of why no species should be underestimated. Thrax's sensory appendages shifted in what might have been embarrassment. To think, all my years of combat experience and my most remembered moment will be being bested by a creature smaller than my smallest appendage. But that's exactly why it's so significant, Professor YXLL said, entering the recovery chamber with a cascade of new data crystals floating around them. The Galactic Council has requested full documentation of the experiment. They're considering revising several protocols regarding the classification of potentially dangerous species. The commander's exoskeleton displayed patterns of thoughtful consideration. What of Earth? How have they responded to all this attention? Crix activated a holographic display showing the latest communications from Earth's scientific community. They're both amused and concerned. Amused that it took an alien civilization to make this discovery, concerned about the implications for interstellar relations. Humans have lived alongside these creatures for millennia, Zen added, entering with fresh medical readings. They've developed respect without fear, caution without paranoia. Perhaps that's a balance we could learn from. The medical wing's atmospheric processors hummed softly as they processed this information. Outside, the Academy's halls were buzzing with unprecedented activity. Research teams were being formed, new studies were being initiated, and students from every department were submitting requests to join Earth-focused programs. The warrior caste is in quite an uproar, Thrax noted, his voice carrying harmonics of amusement. Some are calling for more intensive biological defense training. Others want to incorporate Earth species into our combat simulations. And what do you think, Commander? Crix asked, their scientific curiosity evident in their color patterns. Thrax was silent for a moment, his combat markings shifting through subtle variations. I think we've been looking at strength through a very narrow lens. Perhaps true power lies not in our ability to dominate, but in our capacity to understand and adapt. Professor YXLL's appendages moved in approval. The Galactic Academy has already approved a major expansion of our xenobiology department. We're establishing new protocols for studying what we previously considered insignificant life forms. The humans have a saying, Crix offered, don't judge a book by its cover. Though I admit, I'm still trying to understand why they store information in covers. The room filled with harmonics of amusement, even Thrax's warrior markings showing patterns of mirth. But the moment of levity was interrupted by an urgent communication pulse. A holographic projection materialized in the center of the chamber, showing the Grand Council of the Galactic Alliance in session. Their announcement reverberated through the Academy's communication networks. In light of recent events, Earth has been reclassified as a Class A biological research priority. All member species are hereby advised to approach Earth's biosphere with maximum caution and respect. Furthermore, a new division of the Galactic Science Initiative will be established, dedicated to studying and documenting Earth's diverse life forms. Crix's exoskeleton displayed patterns of pure joy. Their simple research project had evolved into something that would reshape galactic understanding of life itself. Commander, they said, turning to Thrax, would you consider sharing your experience with my xenobiology class? I think your perspective would be invaluable. Thrax's warrior markings pulsed with unexpected enthusiasm. I would be honored. Perhaps together we can help our people understand that true strength often comes in unexpected forms. As the medical wing continued its work, new messages arrived from across the galaxy. Research institutions were requesting data, military academies were revising their training protocols, and diplomatic corps were scrambling to update their Earth interaction guidelines. The smallest defender had not just humbled a mighty warrior, it had sparked a revolution in how the galaxy's civilizations viewed life itself. And in the Academy's halls, a young student named Crix felt their research taking on a significance they had never imagined possible. The newly established Earth Species Research Center dominated the eastern wing of the Galactic Academy. 6 cycles had passed since Commander Thrax's encounter, and the facility hummed with activity. Holographic displays showed countless Earth species being studied simultaneously, while researchers from dozens of worlds collaborated on groundbreaking projects. Crix, now leading their own research team, stood before a three-dimensional model of spider venom molecules. Their exoskeleton showed the deep blue patterns of scientific fascination as they manipulated the display. The complexity is astounding, they explained to a group of visiting diplomats. Each species has evolved unique compounds, perfectly adapted to their prey and environment. What we initially saw as simple toxins are actually sophisticated chemical systems. Professor YXLL, recently appointed as Director of Earth Studies, added their own observations. The medical applications alone have revolutionized our understanding of neurology. We've developed 15 new treatments based solely on modified spider venom proteins. The diplomatic delegation's collective sensory appendages wavered with interest. Among them stood representatives from traditionally militant species, their war markings now complemented by scientific insignias. And these humans, one delegate inquired, they've lived alongside these creatures for their entire evolution? Not just lived alongside them, Zen interjected, entering with fresh data crystals. They've studied them, respected them, and learned from them. Their traditional medicines often incorporated venoms long before they understood the molecular science behind them. The research center's main chamber shifted its atmospheric composition automatically, accommodating the various species present. On the walls, displays showed live feeds from Earth's different ecosystems, each one a testament to the planet's incredible biodiversity. Commander Thrax's experience was just the beginning, Crix continued, their colors showing pride. Once we began looking closer at Earth's smallest species, we discovered entire new branches of biological science. Their insects, their microorganisms, even their plant life. Each holds secrets we're only beginning to understand. A junior researcher burst into the chamber, their exoskeleton flashing with excitement. Director YXLL. The results from the coral reef study just came in. You need to see this immediately. The assembled group moved to a larger display area, where images of Earth's marine ecosystems filled the air around them. The tiny organisms that built coral reefs had captured the galaxy's imagination almost as much as the spiders had. These polyps, the junior researcher explained, their patterns showing academic excitement, they don't just build structures. They create entire ecosystems that support thousands of species. And some of their chemical defenses rival our most sophisticated military shields. Professor YXLL's appendages moved in a pattern of scientific approval. Another example of power manifesting in unexpected forms. The galaxy's military strategists are already studying how these natural defense systems could be adapted for peaceful purposes. The diplomatic delegation exchanged meaningful glances. Their worlds had long measured strength in terms of size and destructive capability. Now, they were learning to see power in creation, adaptation, and cooperation. We've established exchange programs with Earth's universities, Crix announced, bringing up details of the latest academic initiatives. Their scientists will be joining us here, while our researchers will study on Earth. With proper safety protocols, of course. One of the diplomats, their markings indicating they were from a traditionally aggressive species, spoke up. In my youth, we were taught that smaller meant weaker. Our warriors trained to overcome any obstacle through pure force. Now, our military academies teach respect for all forms of life as their first principle. The chamber's ambient lighting shifted as day turned to evening, but the work continued. In laboratories throughout the facility, researchers studied everything from beetle shell structures to plant defense mechanisms. Each discovery led to new questions, new possibilities, and new understanding. The humans have a concept, Professor YXLL shared, called biomimicry, the practice of learning from and emulating nature's strategies. They've been doing this for generations, yet they've barely scratched the surface of what their world has to teach. Crix moved to another display, showing the latest statistics from the Galactic Survey of Sentient Species. Look at these numbers. Applications for Earth studies have increased by 4,000%. Every major research institution in the galaxy wants to establish an Earth Sciences department. And to think, Zen added, their colors showing amusement, it all started because you decided to look closer at something others thought insignificant. The diplomatic delegation prepared to depart, their sensory appendages full of new information to share with their worlds. But before they left, they witnessed one more remarkable scene. Commander Thrax, now a regular visitor to the research center, teaching a group of young warriors about the importance of respect for all forms of life. Strength, his voice carried through the chamber, comes in many forms. True wisdom lies in recognizing and learning from each of them, no matter how small they may appear. As the sun set outside the Academy's crystalline spires, the Earth Species Research Center continued its work, each discovery adding to the galaxy's growing understanding that in nature, size and power often had very little to do with each other. And somewhere on Earth, countless tiny creatures continued their ancient ways, unaware that they had transformed how an entire galaxy viewed the nature of strength itself. A full stellar cycle had passed since the historic demonstration at the Warrior Trials. The Galactic Academy's Grand Assembly Hall was filled to capacity, its crystalline architecture amplifying the excitement of the gathered beings from across known space. Today marked the inauguration of the Interstellar Institute of Earth Biology and, more importantly, the ratification of the Earth Species Protection Act. Crix stood at the presentation platform, their exoskeleton now bearing the distinguished markings of a senior researcher. Beside them, Commander Thrax's imposing figure carried a new set of markings, those of the Academy's Combat Biology Department, which he now headed. 10 cycles ago, Crix began, their voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. We thought we understood strength. We measured it in size, in force, in destructive capability. Today, we gather to celebrate how wrong we were. The holographic displays around the chamber showed images from Earth, tiny spiders weaving intricate webs, microscopic organisms maintaining vast ecosystems, plants developing complex chemical defenses. Each image represented a revolution in galactic understanding. The Earth Species Protection Act, Professor YXLL announced, their aged exoskeleton now bearing the highest academic honors, establishes Earth as a protected biological treasury. Its ecosystems will be studied, but never exploited. Its species will be understood, but never weaponized. Commander Thrax stepped forward, his warrior markings now complemented by scientific insignias. Our warrior training has been transformed. Where once we taught dominance, we now teach understanding. Where we valued size, we now value adaptation. My own encounter with Earth's smallest defender has become a cornerstone of this new philosophy. The assembly hall's atmospheric processors hummed as they accommodated the diverse gathering. Representatives from traditionally warring species sat together, united in their appreciation of life's complexity. Military leaders discussed defense strategies based on spider web architecture, while medical researchers shared breakthroughs inspired by venom compounds. But perhaps our greatest achievement, Crix continued, has been the change in how we view ourselves and our place in the galaxy. We've learned that true strength lies not in dominating our environment, but in understanding and adapting to it. Zen, now heading the Academy's Interspecies Communication Department, brought up new data streams. Our exchange programs with Earth have exceeded all expectations. Human scientists work alongside us daily, sharing their generations of knowledge about living in harmony with species of all sizes. In return, we've shared our technological advances, creating a symbiotic relationship that benefits all. The chamber's displays shifted to show the newest addition to the Academy's campus, a vast biodome designed to replicate Earth's various ecosystems. Within it, carefully maintained populations of Earth species lived and thrived, providing endless opportunities for study and learning. The humans have a concept Professor YXLL shared, called the web of life, the idea that all living things are connected, each playing a vital role in the greater whole. We've discovered that this web extends far beyond Earth, encompassing all of us in ways we're only beginning to understand. Commander Thrax moved to the center of the platform, his massive form now a symbol not of military might, but of transformed understanding. In our warrior traditions, we speak of leaving a legacy. I never imagined that my most significant legacy would come not from victory in battle, but from being humbled by a creature I could barely see. The assembly erupted in harmonics of agreement. Around the chamber, viewing screens showed similar gatherings taking place on worlds across the galaxy. The lesson of the smallest defender had resonated far beyond the Academy's walls. Today, Crix concluded, their exoskeleton displaying patterns of deep satisfaction, we don't just celebrate new laws or institutions. We celebrate a new way of seeing the universe and our place within it. Every species, no matter how small, has something to teach us. Every creature, no matter how seemingly insignificant, plays a vital role in the greater dance of life. As the formal ceremonies concluded, the gathered beings moved through the chamber, sharing stories and insights. Military leaders discussed defense strategies inspired by butterfly wing structures. Medical researchers excitedly shared breakthroughs based on plant communication networks. Diplomatic corps planned cultural exchange programs focused on biological understanding. In a quiet corner of the chamber, Crix found themselves standing with Commander Thrax and Professor YXLL, watching the energetic interactions around them. "Did you ever imagine," Thrax asked, his voice carrying harmonics of wonder, "that your simple research project would lead to all this?" Crix's sensory appendages moved in a gesture of humility. "I just wanted to understand something everyone else had overlooked. The rest." They gestured at the chamber full of beings united in celebration of life's diversity. This came from all of us being willing to learn new ways of seeing. As the triple suns set outside the Academy's spires, casting rainbow refractions through the crystalline walls, the gathered beings continued their celebrations. The legacy of the smallest defender had grown far beyond a single demonstration or discovery. It had become a new way of understanding strength, power, and the intricate connections that bound all living things together in the great web of galactic life. And somewhere on Earth, countless tiny spiders continued their ancient ways, their very existence a reminder that in the vast tapestry of life, size was perhaps the least important measure of significance.